All right, what's up, fantasy fans? Today I'm going to be giving you a breakdown, channel news, update on what I read last month, what happened with me last month, my plans for the coming month, and just a big thank you to everyone that's kind of subscribed to the channel. I've seen a growth like double what I had this time, like last, like into January. I think I had 90, and now I have like 170. So I've almost doubled my subscribers, and that's awesome. And yeah, just thank you for everyone who got me here. A little bit of update. It was a slower reading month than normal because I was taking my T's exam. I was able to score an 86.7, which I'm in like the top 5% of scorers on that exam. The average score I think is like a 67.5. So I'm pretty sure I'll get into nursing school. My GPA is like a 3.9. It was very surreal pressing submit on that exam, thinking I did way worse than I did, and I'm just feel so blessed and so grateful to my past self for spending all that time studying when I would have rathered be in Edan. I'd rather be in the Salon Empire. I'd rather be anywhere else than in my room studying anatomy. But you know, it worked. All right, so we're gonna go over in order. This is my ranking of what I read last month. So in last, I will say the artwork in this comic is amazing. I love the dialogue. I love the Alfred Bruce relationship, but overall, the story just didn't have enough time to marinate. I'm talking about Christian Ward's Batman City of Madness. This is H.P. Lovecraft meets Gotham City, and while it had amazing ideas, it never quite was able to deliver because I don't think he had enough issues. If this was a 12 issue series, I could easily see this being a 5-star read. I thought it was a great book for the amount of time we had, but I'd give it like 3 stars just because of how little we got. Like, it felt like it was building up so much and then it had to wrap it up. It felt like DC wasn't giving them enough. And I don't know if that's the case, but it felt like issue 1, issue 2 was building up to so much, and then issue 3 just kind of like wrapped it up super quick. All right. Then Looking Glass by Christina Henry. Absolutely love Christina Henry. Lost Boy and Alice both are 5-star spectacular reads. Red Queen, book 2 in the Alice Chronicles, was more of like a 2.5. This is sitting more at a 3.5. It's better than Red Queen. It's 4 novellas set in the Alice world, but it definitely feels like book 3. I really loved the third novella in this collection. It's kind of like a Hatcher origin story, and I thought that was 5-star novella. But then, you know, just weighed against some of the other ones. Like there were two. The first and third I thought were like 5 stars, and then the second and fourth were like 3-star ish. I just settled around 3.5 to 4 stars, maybe. Right there on the 3.5 to 4. Then we have a Once Crowded. I should be giving this a dedicated review. I thought that the last 100 pages were 5-star material, but the first 200 pages kind of felt like this is an examination of Dante's Paradiso and an examination of the ideal of heaven. Is paradise really paradise if we're just promised this constant state of stagnation? And are we not growing and changing and being challenged? Are we really living? And it challenges some of what Dante laid out in the Divine Comedy, and it also has some little parallels with Virgil's Aeneid. I thought it was great, but the first 150 or so pages felt like a cliche, edgier version of superhero comics, and then you start getting into, I mean, there are definitely echoes of the commentary earlier on in the book, but it's trying to pull the wool over your eyes by making you think that this is another type of story. And I do think it was essential for the payoff of the themes and of the narrative. That being said, I would not blame someone for DNFing this at 100 pages because it just felt like a cliche superhero comic. All right, She Dreams in Blood, book 2 of the Obsidian Path, 4.75 stars, so close to a 5 stars, and I really think book 3 is going to hit that 5 stars. I thought the addition of Brenwick in this story was absolutely awesome. I continue to love Crane and Henka, even though I really shouldn't. Crane is vile. I'm definitely gonna bleep out that. Anyway, Sheriff of Babylon, Another Tom King book. This one gets his 5 stars, though. It's Tom King and Mitch Garrett, same team behind Mr. Miracle, which is my favorite comic of all time. This tells a gut-wrenching, heart-breaking tale of the fall of Baghdad, which is the occupation of certain parts of Iraq by the U.S. Millennial Manifesto, when millennials tire of CEOs and corporations taking advantage of them, they strike out. They make a CEO drink water from a water supply he poisoned, and then he sends his goons after them. And I thought the goons were so well written, very reminiscent of Pulp Fiction, directed by Quentin Tarantino. And then we get into my top 3. Number 3. This was hard. This was hard. In fact, I still don't know what number 1's going to be. Number 3 is Empire of Silence, book 1 of the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. Absolutely blew me away. I also went in with the expectation that this was the worst in the series. That's what everyone says is book 1 is the worst. How? And that just excites me for the level of quality I'm about to get in the future. And then we get to... This is hard. Picking my book of the month is really hard because neither of these books deserve to be in the number 2 spot. And honestly, Sun Eater doesn't deserve to be in the number 3 spot. And Millennial Manifesto doesn't deserve to be in the number 4 spot. And Sheriff of Babylon, okay, we can go down that trail. But my top 2, still don't know which number 1 is, are The Wavy Dan by Philip Chase and The Gallant by Janny Wirtz. But it's like, okay. Word for word, Janny Wirtz may be in contention for one of my favorite authors of all time, and this is having only read Curse of the Mistwraith and The Gallant. You know, she's up there. Like, I think she will rival Steven Erikson by the time I'm caught up for my favorite author of all time. But how do I compare 90 pages of The Gallant to 400 magnificent pages of Edan? Man, it's a hard one. Is Wavy Dan my book of the month, or is The Gallant my book of the month? You know what? I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to say I prefer The Gallant slightly, but I read The Gallant halfway in January and halfway in February, and I read this just in February. So, yeah, Wavy Dan is the book of the month for the month of February. But I'm just going to say The Gallant is disqualified because I do not have the heart to rank Edan versus Gallant. So I'm just going to say, yeah, Gallant is disqualified. But I will say I do love Philip's prose and I love Rocchio's prose. Janny's prose are bar none. Janny's prose are so good. I think they might be better than Steven Erikson and Robin Hobb. And that scares me because those have been my 2 favorite prose since I was a wee lad. All right, so now we're bringing part 2 of the video is going to be my TBR for the month of March. Now, I do not have a big, massive nursing exam in the month of March, but I do have nursing school applications. It's more tedium and less nerve-wracking. I mean, it's still nerve-wracking to an extent because, like, what if I say something wrong on the application? But it's not like I have to make this certain score, so I definitely think I will have way more studying time this month and in the month, way more reading time this month than in the month of February. So I'm going to start off with some books that I will be finishing shortly. Probably might even finish it because I'm recording this on the 25th. I probably won't put it out till like March 2nd, March 3rd. I don't know when. But I'll probably finish these before we even get into March because I have like an hour left of the audiobook of Lessons Never Learned, book 2 in the War Eternal by Rob J. Hayes. Moira Quirk absolutely eats on these audiobooks. This book, I will probably give it a dedicated review, which I don't usually do for book 2s, unless, it's like a trilogy and this is a 5-book series. This is one of the best sequel books I've ever read in my entire life. Absolutely blew away book 1 in the War Eternal, and I do think War Eternal may be, one of the best self-pub fantasies ever, alongside Sword of Kaigen and Dreams of the Dying. I'm also going to finish... I started it yesterday, but it reads really quickly, and that is Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chang. A lot of Wonder Woman fans hate this because it's like very different from like DC Comics and Wonder Woman comics. It's like very Greek mythology. Think like grown up Percy Jackson, or like Patronus War of the Gods, or like Dresden Files. It feels like an urban fantasy, and a lot of these characters are like modern day, like a Playboy Apollo, and like, it's like that, but it's a lot darker than what you're thinking. This was very MA for DC at the time. People thought it was edgy. People thought it was just going for shock value. People thought it wasn't tied to other DC comics enough. And I heard all this and said, all your cons sound like your best attributes. This sounds amazing. I like adult graphic. I like, modern mythology, and I like something that isn't connected to a big end all event. Sometimes the big events can be fun, but sometimes you just want a really good story told by a really talented writer and artist, and you get that in this. All right, so once I'm done with those, there's no specific order. Like, this is not like my TBR order to an exact, like, oh, I'm reading this, 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 and this. This is just mainly like the 10 or so books I want to get to. I do want to finish the Obsidian Path omnibus, though. I just have an End to Sorrow left. But before I get to that, I definitely, because Michael R. Fletcher has a lot of little crossovery stuff. So I like to read his books in publication order, even though by his own omission, he doesn't really plan that way. Like, he doesn't write in publication order what is happening in verse. He just writes whatever strikes his mood. But I do want to read Norliska Groans first, which is a collaborative effort between Michael R. Fletcher and Clayton W. Snyder. Yeah, that's his name. I haven't read Snyder yet, but anybody that is collaborating with Michael R. Fletcher, I'm sure has immense talent, because I don't think Michael R. Fletcher would just write with anybody. I'm sure Clayton W. Snyder and Anna Smith Spark are just absolute talents, and I definitely want to read the Anna Smith Spark Michael R. Fletcher novella too. And then this one has me super pumped. The Black Company by Glenn Cook. Big inspiration for Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is one of my favorite books of all time. It's actually my favorite series of all time. And I want to see what inspired it, but I wanted to give it time between me finishing Malazan and me starting, what came before. That way I'm not comparing it too heavily to Malazan. This collects the first 3 books in the Black Company series, and I believe Glenn Cook is coming out with more Black Company stuff like this year. Then I'm going to listen on audiobook to The Severing Sun by Von Roycroft. I've actually already started this one, and I'm already really loving the audio quality, and I really like the narration. I'm blanking on the guy's name. But yeah, I'm just immensely excited to read, this is book one in the Sundered Nation trilogy. I've been dragging my feet on this. Alan Moore's Illumination. I think that he is just a genius with the written word. His comic books were amazing. His book Jerusalem was an absolute masterpiece, and I'm really excited to get to some of his short fiction. All right, so next up, I really want to read. I just get so happy talking about Adan, Prophet of Adan. Very scared to read this one, which is probably why I read the first couple pages and I was like, no, let me set this down. Let me read some fun comic books. Let me come back to this. I'm really concerned because I've heard from people that Philip Chase be killing off some main characters, and if Imhar comes to harm, just take Sequara. I'm not too attached to her yet. No offense, Philip. I think you're an amazing writer. Sequara is probably the one I'm least attached to. I'm really attached to Norn and Imhar, and I feel like I'm going to become really attached to Orvindil. So please don't hurt them. And then I may find time to read Blood Over Brighthaven. I don't know. I might audiobook this because it's Moira Quirk. She is the female Tim Gerard Reynolds, or Tim Gerard Reynolds is the male, the XY chromosome version of. These are my 2 favorite audiobook narrators ever in the history of ever. I also really like James Marsters, but yeah, these are just the best of the best. Oh, Samuel Rolkin is also really good. I might do a video of top 10 audiobook narrators, but Moira Quirk is probably she's probably my number 1 favorite. Absolutely love her, the way she is able to show so many different characters. And I feel like M.L. Wong's writing in Moira Quirk's audio narration is just a match made in heaven. So I'd be dumb not to do audio. But I also have 3 editions of this in hardback, and I do not have the audiobook version. So maybe I should just, nah, I could use a credit. I don't know. we'll see what I want to do. But yeah, that's my reading plans and what I read in February and what I plan to read in March. Peace.